Hello everyone, Ariam here. Welcome back to another episode of Dinosaur Days, where today we're covering two flying dinosaurs. Sort of. Archaeopteryx and Yi Chi. I say sort of because it's not confirmed whether or not Archaeopteryx could actually fly or if it was just a glider. But we'll talk more about that later. The discovery of Archaeopteryx shattered what we thought we knew about dinosaurs because for the first time we had concrete proof that some of them were fully feathered. Because of this, and because of the very clear evidence of wings on this animal, it was assumed for a long time that Archaeopteryx was the link between dinosaurs and birds, a sort of transition point between the two. We now know that this transition is actually really complicated, and it didn't just go from dinosaurs eventually evolving into smaller feathered birds, but rather that there were bird-like dinosaurs, there were dinosaurs with feathers that may not have been closely related to birds, and that some species of birds did exist alongside some species of dinosaurs. So it wasn't exactly a step-by-step process. Regardless, this animal is one of the most important fossil finds of all of paleontological history, so let's get back to whether or not it could actually fly. Flight is a very complex process that requires several structural and behavioral traits that, if any one is missing, renders an animal flightless. There have been so many studies, so many contradicting findings, and so many different theories as to whether Archaeopteryx could fly, but that could take an entire college seminar to explain, so let's get down to the nitty-gritty. It is believed that Archaeopteryx could glide, and could have potentially added flaps to these glides to increase the distance at which they could soar, likely to get to new territories or escape from predators. However, it is not yet confirmed that this animal could sustain powered flight, and honestly, these studies are still ongoing into recent years, so I can't confirm whether or not this animal could fly, or if it just had a semi-arboreal lifestyle that included gliding from tree to tree. And unfortunately, it looks like I may have lied to you in the title for the sake of alliteration, because it's actually unconfirmed if Yi Chi, or simply Yi, could have flown either. Yi is a very unique dinosaur where the structures of its hands and wrists suggested that it had a gliding membrane similar to those of bats, rather than feathers to support a wing. If you look at bats, they have very small bodies and very large wings, which allows them the proper ratio for powered flight. Yi did not have this ratio. Compared to its body, its wings were not big enough to have allowed for powered flight, but may have allowed for gliding. There have been other hypotheses put forward that instead of bat-like wings, Yi had large, extended finger bones that would have also allowed for gliding, like you see in a gliding frog, which, in case you didn't know, there are some frogs that can glide. Surprise! Whether it had big frog hands or bat wings, this is an interesting example of convergent evolution because Yi had nothing to do genetically with either frogs or bats. This just means that natural selection factors were similar with Yi as they may have been for the ancestors of either flying frogs or of bats. So animals that had those traits, such as the ability to glide or fly, would have survived longer, reproduced more, and those traits would have been passed on. This is essentially the same idea as crabification, or the joke that crabs are the most pure life form on Earth, because crabs keep re-evolving, and a lot of crabs are built in essentially the same way, despite not being genetically related pretty much at all. Simply because that body form really works in the environments that they live in. Weird. Maybe crabification would be a good idea for a long-form episode in the future. How did I get to crabs? Oh my gosh, this is supposed to be about Archaeopteryx and Yi Chi. So, unfortunately, it does look like I misled you with the title of this episode, as neither of these species have been confirmed to have flight capabilities. But I can't resist a good bit of alliteration. Maybe instead of flying fellows, these are simply gliding gentlemen. But both of these animals are incredible scientific discoveries, and that should remind you to smile.